Elon Musk cooked us so hard. It's crazy how hard Elon Musk cooked us.
If you've been online.
Oh yeah, I've been meaning to watch this, and we don't have a lot of time until my guests arrive, but I will watch as much as I can. Infiltrating Nick Fuentes' Groyper army. It's a banger vid from Benaminute and Eric Hovagim. Let's take
For the past couple of months,
Let's watch.
you may have heard a word that you were unfamiliar with.
Groypers.
Groypers.
Named after a version of the viral Pepe the Frog meme, Groypers are a fastly growing subsect of the far right, led by none other than political commentator Nicholas J. Fuentes.
Your best friends in life are the most Asperger's, like autistic, racist people you meet on the internet. Those are your best friends. So,
if you're not familiar with Nick's content and ideology, let me lay down his beliefs before we go any further. Nick Fuentes is a white Christian nationalist who says the quiet part of the modern-day American conservative movement out loud.
and yet if she were a little bit more racist, she'd be alive.
He is nativist, sexist, Islamophobic, homophobic, anti-Semitic, and a Holocaust denier. And Nick and his beliefs have been quickly reshaping the new alt-right. But what separates Nick from other right-wing political pundits is he can be hypercritical of Donald Trump, the Republican Party, and Israel. But don't be fooled, because it's not for the same reasons that you probably hold.
I have a hot take about it, of course. Spoiler alert, it has to do with the Jews in Israel.
And we'll be getting to that. Nick also isn't afraid to criticize popular conservative pundits, like Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, and even Charlie Kirk.
It's a good thing Charlie Kirk.
I saw a really funny clip about this from Tim Pool complaining that every major conservative commentator knows exactly why Candace Owens is popping right now and their view counts have plummeted. And it's because she's evil and all the other major conservative pundits are scared to be just as evil or whatever. And it's just because like she's anti-Israel. Like that's it.
Kirk's daughter was born to a rich man in America who lies for a living and is paid by billionaires to do it, and wasn't born in Gaza.
The spread of Nick's influence isn't slowing down anytime soon, and it seems to be quickly reshaping the future of the Republican Party post-Trumpism, whenever that may be. So today, I want to try to understand why Nick is becoming so popular, and really try to pinpoint what he is doing seemingly right in the right-wing space. But most importantly, and probably why you clicked on this video, is I want to see if I can emulate it. Could you take Nick's language, charm, and bluntness, and turn it rogue? Can I use the Groyper language to convince thousands of young, angry white guys that it isn't actually a Guatemalan immigrant who is the one raising their rent? But you know what they say.
Good line. Good line, Benaminute.
Sometimes to truly understand someone, you must first become them. As a matter of fact, you couldn't name 5 countries. You couldn't tell me what continent China is in. This feels like a Marvel crossover movie.
Who knows, maybe that's like step 1 to radicalizing them. I want this guy dead.
We're fighting for our civilization.
I'm just excited to become a Groyper.
Let's Groyp it up. Hey, it's been a minute. And today I'm going to infiltrate Nick Fuentes' Groyper army.
You stole your whole flow? Come on, chatter. There's a reason why I say what I say, so that others say it too. What do you mean? There's no such thing as theft. It's all our talking points, comrade.
When you're infiltrating the system, you have to wear a mask. And you have to assume an identity. It's a spy game. It's tough.
All right, well, I think a good place to start in trying to understand Nick is to watch him where most people watch him, and where most people discover him. And that's through the clips. Because Nick has been banned off most of the woke mainstream sites like YouTube, his content has been able to find a nice home in the form of shorts, reels, and TikToks posted by fan accounts. I guess the woke apps don't really care as long as the hate speech is short, to the point, and under a minute long.
We're putting you in the labubu. I don't know how to say this, but you're going in the labubu. And Gavin Newsom will put you there.
Okay, so from first glance, I guess I kind of get the appeal of some of his content. I mean, if I had no idea who this guy was and I just saw this.
All you have is your vote. It is the billionaires, it is the oligarchs that make the decisions for all of us. It is the billionaires that make the giant campaign contributions. They make the decisions in the public and private sector that affect all of us. What do we have? We have our vote.
I would agree with him. And this is what makes Nick not just unique in the vast pool of right-wing commentators, but also extremely dangerous for the future of American politics. Whether you love him or hate him, Trump and his administration is becoming more unpopular every day. And I don't have a crystal ball, but I don't think MAGA or the new Republican Party can survive without Trump himself. And one day, who knows when, but one day, there will be no Trump. And the Republican Party is going to have to find a new identity post-MAGA. Well, I believe Nick knows this, and is planning and laying the groundwork for what comes next for American conservatives. And I promise you, it's not going to be J.D. Vance. Nick and I can both agree on that.
J.D. Vance was created by the fortune created by Palantir.
So far, Nick has been able to fill the gaps.
Yeah. It's not JD Vance. It's Tucker Carlson. This isn't that bad because it makes so much money for every social media company. You got to think about the CEO too. They need a second boat. I agree. Some people on the right are saying that their current infighting is a result of Kirk being gone. He was the one holding us together, etc., which is some wild revisionist history. A big reason Fuentes even has a career was the visceral hatred young right-wingers have for Charlie. I guess it makes sense from a Groyper perspective because he capitulated to them so much on so many things. To them, this role was a legitimizer of Groyper shit that the right-wing powers that be would have fought against if he wasn't signing off on them. Yeah. The difference is Israel. That's it. The difference is public attitude against Israel. For the longest time, when people, by the way, talk about like Nick Fuentes being debanked or whatever, from what I understand, because I saw a clip of him actually explaining the situation, the reason why he got debanked wasn't because of Israel. The reason why he got debanked was because of January 6th, because he got gifted Bitcoin to the tune of $250,000 right before January 6th, as a matter of fact, from a foreign donor. Okay. And then he participated in January 6th. So the administration that was investigating all of the top, actors, top participants in January 6th, saw that and obviously froze all of his assets in the process of that investigation. Then they concluded their investigation. They found that it was like some French hacker who I guess was giving money to, or at least this is Nick Fuentes' statement about it, but it was a French hacker that had stolen a bunch of money from other people, and before he committed suicide, he sent these gift donations. Kaya, nope. These gift donations to a bunch of people that were quote unquote defending Western civilization from his perspective. Anyway, so that's the reason why he was debanked, not because he was like saying the truth about Israel, but you could say that he was censored from all social media platforms, from major social media platforms, not necessarily because he was, talking shit about Israel, even though that probably played a role in it as well, but because he was an anti-Semitic Holocaust denier who was anti-miscegenation and thinks that, white people are racially better and superior to all other non-white races, is the reason why he was censored on all of these major social media platforms. But the reason why he was debanked is not because of Israel, but because of his participation in January 6th. Just so we are clear.
With the majority of disenfranchised young people who are starting to doubt Trump's leadership and overall plan for the country. Through economic populist rhetoric, Nick speaks to relatable problems for any young person, or more specifically, young white men.
Oh, okay, you won't forgive my student loans? Okay, well, that's because the free market said so. The free market says that Republicans have enough money to bomb Iran, but not enough money to pay for my student loans. And I'm going to vote for that because I'm an idiot.
With leaders in neither political party being able to speak like this, other than a few on the left like Zohran Mamdani, AOC, and Bernie, and now I guess Marjorie Taylor Greene?
This is the number one issue I hear about in my district.
There's legit 50x times more Fuentes content on IG Reels than Hasan content. He's not really censored. I will tell you like this. There are more people on the right that like Nick Fuentes, and more Groypers that like Nick Fuentes, more like extremely online people that like Nick Fuentes than there are extremely online people who like me. For example, Bradley Martin just did a post with Nick Fuentes, right? Nick Fuentes went to Zoo Culture, they worked out, whatever. Bradley Martin, I know for a fact, would get more if he were to do a similar thing with me than with Nick Fuentes. One must ask the question, why? Perhaps it's because all of the apolitical centrists and all of these other like right-wing accounts and right-wing associated accounts, all of these cultures that actually, all these accounts that dominate like cultural critique on the internet have more smoke for someone like myself than they do for someone like Nick Fuentes. That's the reason, okay? Because Nick Fuentes himself is a creature of the right, or a creature of the internet, rather. Sorry. That is the reality. I know for a fact that Bradley Martin would get more for doing a video with someone like myself than he is getting for doing a video with Nick Fuentes. If that is the media landscape that we have created for ourselves, as you know, like liberals on the internet, leftists on the internet, then the expectation that like it wasn't inevitable that a figure like Nick Fuentes would be able to be the only voice that penetrates broader consciousness with like fake left populism, it was inevitable. This is the same thing that happened with Tucker Carlson when he was on Fox News. He was doing the same WASP nationalist, white supremacist commentary that was that was the only game in town for any sort of left populist sentiment, any sort of pro-worker sentiment. MSNBC, CNN, ABC, CBS, all of the liberal outlets were antagonistic towards a class-first politics. Meanwhile, Tucker Carlson on the far right was able to do that on Fox News. So many people gravitated towards that because class-first politics or pro-working class politics is successful. It's popular. It's the largest group that we're talking about. In the past, before Nick Fuentes, Ben Shapiro did a similar thing. At the time, when TYT was, the biggest name in progressive news, many people had hatred for TYT that they did not have for the likes of Ben Shapiro or the likes of Jordan Peterson. This is how these guys create a robust network of center-right to far-right to straight-up neo-Nazi influencers that are constantly cross-pollinating amongst themselves. Okay. Meanwhile, the left is consistently fighting amongst itself. The left is consistently trying to undermine whatever the most visible version of the left actually looks like because he's not perfect, or because I watched one too many clips, or one too many different influencers that decided that this person is actually bad and secretly a fascist. This is just the unfortunate reality. Okay, this is how it works. There's more people who hate Hasan, libs hate Hasan, centrists hate Hasan, right-wingers hate Hasan. Hasan gets more online harassment than I've seen online. Yes, I will say this, like Nick Fuentes is a straight up neo-Nazi, white supremacist, Holocaust denier who is against race mixing. And I know for a fact that while I have a much larger profile than Nick Fuentes broadly, I also have much much more robust force of haters than Nick Fuentes does. Because like, think about how many times, I don't know, all these like slop tubers have actually covered Nick Fuentes. How many times have they done videos on Nick Fuentes, whether it be that more Pegasus guy or whether it be the Willie slop tube guy? How many times have they covered Nick Fuentes? Some of them are friends with Nick Fuentes. This is how it works. If the apolitical dullards actually get their political notes from slop tubers, okay, if they get their political notes from slop tubers, and those slop tubers are all in unison, constantly on me, and they spend zero time shitting on Nick Fuentes, who is literally a Holocaust denier, why would the random young like apolitical people that get their political notes from these ever feel like Nick Fuentes is a threat or is in any way, shape, or form controversial? They'll just hear other people in mainstream news say he's controversial, and they don't give a shit about mainstream news. Mainstream news has no motion. Mainstream news has no motion for people under the age of 35, and especially for people under the age of 35. They are getting their information from flop tubers and TikTokers. And if those TikTokers are spending way more time shitting on the largest left-wing content creator and consistently saying, oh, socialism means he needs to be poor, but I'm saying that as a leftist and I'm not a reactionary right-winger, or any number of different idiotic things that they find to make content around, then of course people are not going to develop any sort of resentment towards Nick Fuentes. He's going to be able to get through that process. Doors open. Women, queer people, and people of color in general don't care about Bradley Martin in the YouTube commentary sphere. That's why the disgusting fuck would get less shit. The online commentary and drama sphere is right-wing. Exactly. That's my point. And the same reason, that is also precisely the same reason why Jonathan Greenblatt is focused more on me than him.
This is the number one issue I hear about in my district. Health insurance premiums are unaffordable. That's our job, bringing taxpayer dollars back to our districts that help our communities, roads, water projects, you name it.
Anyway, Nick is quickly filling an empty space that the left must develop a counter to immediately. If Nick is playing the long game here, which I believe he is, then we have to as well. So today I hope to lay out what we can do to help combat the rise of Christian nationalism disguised as economic populism, and hopefully speak directly to the Groypers watching, to validate their frustrations with the status quo, while trying to show them that a better world is possible, without Nick's conclusions around Jews, immigrants, and women. But before we get into that, have you ever tried Googling yourself before? Like actually typed your full name into Google and hit search. Benaminute. What the hell?
Ethical reaction.
Chances are your phone number, address, maybe even your relative's info is just sitting out there on dozens of random websites. This is all thanks to the work of data brokers, companies that gather your personal information, build detailed profiles on you, and then sell them to advertisers, marketers, and sometimes even scammers. This is how your data leaks turn into spam calls, identity theft, and a complete loss of control over your privacy. But that's why I use today's sponsor, Incogni. If for some reason this is your first time on YouTube and you don't know what Incogni is, it's a privacy tool that contacts data brokers on your behalf and then forces them to delete your personal data automatically. They handle all of the legal back.
Cannot get over the fact that liberals have put so much time and effort towards convincing people Hasan is worse than Fuentes. I can understand it.
Back and forth. You just click and it's
I've
gone.
talked about
and
this
with their new
extensively
custom
at this
removals
point, but
feature,
like,
you can submit links to any site you find exposing your info.
a lot of these people
even
are
ones
not even
outside of
liberals
their automated
necessarily.
network.
A lot of these people are not even liberals necessarily. It's like it's people that have their own personal anger and their own personal hatred for me. You know, like the sex pastini community. And then there is also the Asmongold style, you know, supposedly apolitical people who present themselves as apolitical, but they're actually right wing, that openly promote Nick Fuentes, and the entire slop tuber contingency that is far more right wing than they openly admit. But that's what it is. Like it. If you're taking it from all angles, which is understandable, I think a lot of these people basically see it as like, a lot of these people basically see me as an ideological op, whereas they see Nick Fuentes not as an ideological op. They see it as like maybe someone that's more extreme than they are, right? But they don't see someone like Nick Fuentes as like a serious, serious enemy. That's it.
.com/Benaminute. When you click that link, it helps support this channel, and it also gives you a huge discount on a very helpful tool. If you're tired of being tracked, spammed, and exposed, it's time to fight back and give you one less thing to worry about. And thank you to Incogni for sponsoring today's video. Okay, back to it.
Also, you also have to remember, like, a lot of this stuff is not like these people. I don't think these people are like ideologically anti-communist or anti-socialist or anything. They've just been like, they're not super well-read or have well-defined worldviews. They just look to the current system and think like there is no better alternative, or rather that the alternative is incredibly scary. I don't even necessarily fault a lot of these guys for having these sorts of opinions, because this is all they've known. They're American. They live in the West. They've been taught that like every other country and its people are, or especially if they're designated as like foreign adversaries, are scary and dangerous. Even if said foreign adversary is doing like the same thing that we're doing, for example, or doing it to a much lesser degree, we have a tendency to look at that and think, no, this is like much more damaging. It's much more devastating when they do it, right? I mean, the funniest dynamic with China, for example, is like, when China does something like mass surveillance, or when China tries to implement like some kind of credit system, right? And it's not even like a national project or anything, and it actually ends up not happening. Although we have a literal credit system already, we look to the Chinese social credit system when we make like we make it a much larger deal than it actually is. Right? We already have a credit system. They don't even have a credit system. Like, there were pilot programs, and then they shelved it. And yet it's still a much larger, it's still a much larger, much more consequential, is brought up as a much larger and much more consequential problem when it's like China doing it. And then even on the alternative side, even when China's doing something good, the way it's presented in the media is like, at what cost? China's green energy revitalization efforts have been very successful, but at what cost, right? So it's always seen through this like negative framework. So when you're pummeled with that kind of commentary, when you're pummeled with that kind of attitude, you basically take that on as a given, and you don't really think about it. And then if there's anyone out there who has reached a level of prominence that is telling you like, no, that's devoid of nuance. There's more context here. It's not as it seems. And someone like myself who doesn't take like a very black and white approach or a black and white hardened stance against foreign adversaries, people say I'm, an enemy of the state. I'm an enemy of America, an enemy of the way that they understand the world. And then they have a lot of resentment. So instead of trying to look at the argument that I'm presenting, they try to seek out ways in which I'm wrong. Oh, I'm wrong because I'm a socialist who's rich, right? I'm a grifter. I must be a grifter. And if you were to scratch the surface of that argument and think about it, it's like, who the would grift to the left? If someone is going to grift, they should just become right wingers, right? Why would anybody grift to the left? It doesn't make any sense. Instead of identifying that issue with this commentary, identifying the issue with this like line of reasoning, I think they still just like kind of lean into that. I still have not understood the concept of a nation state, America being one of them. Anyway, let's continue.
See, Nick's Groyper community has one motto that all of their beliefs fall under, and that motto is America First. Also the name of his live stream show. Nick's definition of America First sort of works as a catch-all term for preaching his ideologies and neo-Nazi talking points. Because Nick's view of what America is and what America should be is the same as most white Christian nationalists. To them, America is the land of opportunity and freedom for everyone who is, you guessed it, ethnically white and ideologically Christian or Catholic, just like Nick.
Everything good is over. This country is going to be mostly non-white by the end of this century.
According to white Christian nationalists, any other race, ethnicity, religion, culture, or foreign influence taints the purity of America. And this is why your material problems can be directly attributed to immigrants, black people.
Could you give a little bit more nuance with why you can't grift to the left like you can the right? I've heard you say it a lot, but I'm just a little bit confused. I mean, think about it this way. Every single day, I have to sit here and tackle like minor differences in opinion from people who turn around and make it seem as though these minor differences in opinion is actually a major consequential delineation from the way that they see the world. And then automatically they assume that that is actually like automatically that means that, I'm a bad person who's like a white supremacist, right? Like this is just how the left operates. They are hyper focused on hyper scrutinizing every single person and engaging in purity spirals. I am an independent with no corporate sponsors, with no corporate donations or anything like that. There is no concentration of wealth and power that thinks that my commentary is good for them, because it's not. At the end of the day, if you're on the left, you are going to be anti-corporate consolidation, anti-wealth consolidation. You're going to be anti-rich to a certain degree, right? And therefore, obviously, if that's the position, then wealthy people would much rather give money to right-wingers, no matter how far right they may be, than any left-winger. So you can't really develop an audience as someone who is a leftist without a significant amount of grassroots support, real support. That's also the reason why you see a lot of... So the number one reason, like I said, is because like the right is way more forgiving, or rather they're way more open-minded towards people who are in any way, shape, or form interested in saying the right things. Just like simply coming out and saying you're a right winger automatically wins you a lot of favor in the right. And that's part of the reason why a lot of people pivot to the right when they're like outed or something like that, whereas people on the left are constantly punished by their own audience all the time. And then the other reason is because there's a lot more money on the right. There's a lot more money on the right. Right-wing ideology also leans into pre-existing hierarchies, social constructs that we take for granted, whereas people on the left, on the progressive side, are constantly trying to dismantle pre-existing hierarchies and that is also seen as a major issue from people who rely on those pre-existing hierarchies, or people who take that as the standard, as the norm, and don't want change. So there's a lot of resistance to change in general. So there are a million different reasons why, if you're going to grift, I think grifting to the right is a much more appropriate measure. Grifting is just posturing for money under those scruples. Why complicate yourself with the hardest version of that? Exactly. If you were a grifter, that means you're devoid of any sort of like serious moral compass. If you're devoid of any sort of like ideological grounding, if you're devoid of any sort of interest in a different vision for the future. And if you just have no real opinions, then why the would you grift on extra hardcore difficulty? The only thing on the left is organic human interest. All the uber rich guy interests on the right wing side, which includes neoliberals who are pro-capitalism. Yes. And people who say there's market saturation on the right, and therefore it might be easier to grift to the left, are wrong, because grifting to the left, or just like communicating leftist positions and making them more palatable, is infinitely more difficult than just saying common sense. Okay. Think about Asmongold, for example. Regardless of what his real world view is, like, think about how he cuts content and how much easier it is to just simply say, yeah, this guy's based. Everything that this guy is doing is good when talking about Donald Trump. There aren't even that many figures that I could point to personally and say, this guy's doing it the appropriate way, the best way. Maybe Zoran, right? And even then I have criticisms of Zoran too. And not only that, but also it's much easier to just look at all of the things that are happening around and just saying, no, it's really good actually. And all of the people that are naysayers about police brutality, or all the people that want more representation, all of those people are just bad people. They just want to destroy Western civilization. It's just much easier to present an argument from a right-wing position, because you can always lean on the status quo. You can always lean on the status quo and maybe even demand more of the status quo. And a lot of people who don't necessarily think too hard, a lot of people who don't think too much about the way things are, or how these systems work and who they hurt, especially if they have a position of privilege in some ways, are never going to want to entertain the notion that, there is a better way out there. There is a better future out there. They're just simply going to go, well, things might be bad, but the alternative is far scarier, because everyone is terrified of change. Anyway, let's continue.
Radical atheist leftists, and just about any group that isn't purely white and American born. You know, sort of like Nick's own father.
I'm not English or German. I'm
Fuentes. What's Fuentes?
Mexican.
And who's your dad's Mexican?
My father's half Mexican, yes.
While the Groypers and Nick fall on the right of the political compass, they often break from Trump and the Republican Party on some things.
When did you meet Arrogant China? Unfortunately, I had zero time. If you remember, I was sleeping the only times where I wasn't on camera.
Especially when it comes to Israel.
We need to confront Israel like we confront Putin, like we confront Xi Jinping, like we confront North Korea.
Since October 7th, over the past 2 years, I believe Nick's rise in popularity can be directly attributed to the growing disdain for the United States' bipartisan funding and support of Israel's genocide of the Palestinian people in Gaza. Across the board, Americans' favorability of Israel has reached the lowest in recent history. And while the vast
right-wing ecosystems are better organized for monetization. Like, they can take $1 million betting ad and get Fuentes or the Israeli prime minister on without getting canceled. Meanwhile, that's not even true. Like, there are definitely people who have gotten canceled, or at least like took a serious hit for having Benjamin Netanyahu. And like, the Nelk boys definitely ate it. Meanwhile, this chat has a full meltdown when you talk about Plattner. Yeah, even if I'm not like a riding Graham Plattner, people still get in their fucking feelings and cut an endless amount of content saying that like it's I'm a fake, phony, and a sheepdog for the Democratic Party.
The majority of right-wing commentators stuck to their scripts and defended the U.S.'s involvement and support of the Israel and Hamas war, as they usually refer to it as. Nick decided to take a different approach and actually call out the atrocities Israel was inflicting against the Palestinian people, breaking from the mainstream conservative talking points. Because of this, Nick was able to carve out a unique subgroup of the right wing, those who were, for the most part, culturally conservative, but didn't buy into the American Uniparty consensus of Israel has the right to defend itself. After all, Nick's motto and show is called America First, and the way the federal government was treating Israel was definitely not putting America first. Now at this point you might be thinking, well, this is good, these Groypers are right? Shouldn't we be standing in solidarity with them in support of Palestinian liberation and the defunding of the IDF and Israel as a whole? Well, yes, but not for the reasons they believe. But you might not know that if you just caught a few of Nick's viral clips online.
I don't think people understand exactly what's happening here. The Gaza Strip is all rubble. It's a population of 2.1 million people. There are reasonable estimates that say that 200,000 people have died. That's 10% of the population. 10% of the population has been killed. And 50,000 of those are women and children. So this is hell on earth.
Because Nick and the Groypers don't care about Palestinian liberation. They're against Israel because they're anti-Semitic. Nathan J. Robinson over at Current Affairs put together these quotes and videos that I'm about to show for this next section, so be sure to check out his article in the description below. Okay, let's get this straight. Nick is a neo-Nazi, and I don't mean to use that term lightly either. He has called Hitler cool and awesome.
Am I right? Am I right, boys? Am I right? Let's go. He was also really cool. Where he's rolling down the street and stuff. It's like, this guy's awesome. This guy's cool.
He's given a Kyle here.
Audrey. Go, go, go. You gonna do it?
And there is also a very viral clip of Nick giving this rant after seeing a black man littering in his neighborhood.
I want this guy, and I wish would kill him. I wish Hitler would have killed him.
If that wasn't enough, he also said things like, I don't believe in the Holocaust, and once said this on a live stream.
It takes 1 hour to cook a batch of cookies, and you have 15 ovens, probably in 4 different kitchens, right?
I mean, this is like scratching the surface. Like, there are rants of him talking about miscegenation, like race mixing, as though it's like the same as having sex with an animal, you know? Insane.
Doing 24 hours a day, every day for 5 years, how long would it take you to make $6 million? I don't know. It certainly wouldn't be 5 years, right? The math doesn't seem to add up there. And in addition, you know, in this hypothetical, I imagine that if you took aerial photographs over the kitchens, you would need to see certain smokestacks to release the smoke from baking the cookies, and the smokestacks would project certain shadows, but I guess they're not visible in the aerial photographs taken over the kitchens.
Nick has even talked to his supporters about how you gotta be careful who you talk to about your beliefs of the Holocaust not being real and Jews secretly running the world.
We all have these beliefs, but you know the consequences for believing them and for talking about them. I actually don't encourage you to go out there and tell everybody in mixed company, you know, don't come home to your parents and say, hey, Mom, Dad, guess who runs America? Let's not do that, okay? I came home from college, I told my parents, I said, Mom, Dad, you will never guess what never happened. Like I just found out about it. You won't believe it. It never happened. And they were like, who raised you? I'm like, Mom, relax, okay? What, are you Jewish or something? Just calm down. It's not that big.
Doesn't that make you part of the problem? Not a Groyper here, but I think some of these clips are like sarcastic remarks taken seriously, like your landlord rant. Brother, I don't know if you're not a Groyper or not. I'm gonna be honest with you. If you are, you know, it kind of feels like you're just masking your point of view here. Okay, you just watched him go on a tangent about on 2 different occasions about denying the Holocaust and saying that the numbers don't add up. Like, that's not, I don't know if that's like sarcastic. I don't know how that could be sarcastic. I genuinely don't know. I'm not saying all of them are sarcastic. Okay, which one do you think is sarcastic? Because it's pretty obvious when he's talking about like miscegenation being the equivalent of like a white person having sex with an animal. Like a white woman having sex with a black man is, from Nick Fuentes' perspective, the equivalence of like a white woman having sex with an animal. Do you think that that is sarcastic? Like, or is it a joke? What do you think is going on there? I mean, I think that's just his position. I don't know why we're, I mean, he's openly said that he is a white supremacist Nazi. I don't know why, like a Christian white nationalist neo-Nazi, right? Like, it's not, I don't think this is I don't think this is held up as a point of contention. He's as maybe not as open about it, but pretty open about his worldview. Do you mean like this one? This?
He was also real.
You're talking about like Adolf Hitler? Because there's numerous occasions. If you think he's being sarcastic in this situation about Adolf Hitler or supporting Adolf Hitler, yeah. So let me ask you one thing, and this is I'm being as sincere as possible here. Why do you think this needs defense? Do you feel like there aren't other instances of Nick Fuentes like openly defending Hitler? Like let's say this is actually a sarcastic remark about Adolf Hitler. I don't know exactly what would be sarcastic here, but don't you know that there are plenty of other instances? Like he's been asked straight up, for example, whether he likes Adolf Hitler or not, and he has said that he does. Like he's been asked over and over again, as a matter of fact. I know a bit of his history. I just want to claim that Benaminute could have picked better clips to prove he's anti-Semitic. That's not what you said, though. That's not what you said. I think these clips are perfectly fine. I think it works on a shitload of people. His goal is to sound sarcastic and jokey, but also like he's sincere, but just tricking the normies with the sarcasm vibes. He's not alone in feeling this way about Nick. And it's an intentional strategy that Nick is utilizing to obfuscate to people what he truly believes. His communication strategy is why he's so successful. Yeah, it's also ironic because this communication strategy that he is deploying is literally what liberals think I'm doing. The context nuke in and of itself was literally that, presenting me as a Nick Fuentes style figure, but on the left, right? And it did work on a lot of people because it presented a shit ton of clips out of context where me saying like liberals are so easy to dupe by Republicans, and they get duped by Republicans all the time. Liberals get duped by right-wingers all the time. I hate that. Was shortened to liberals are so easy to dupe. I'm actually lying to liberals about my position when I'm not. I'm pretty open about my position. He obviously can't be as open about his position, even though he does get fairly open about his position with regular frequency, right? Like he is pretty open about his worldview on the inferiority of other ethnicities and other minority groups. He's pretty open about his support for Adolf Hitler. He is as open as you can get about being a neo-Nazi, an anti-Semitic neo-Nazi. So if you are personally at this stage still going, well, these clips that he's choosing are not great, or he's just being sarcastic, but you are fully aware of the other times in which he's defended Adolf Hitler, for example, whether it be his policies or engaged in Holocaust denial or Holocaust revisionism, then don't you feel like you're just kind of serving his purpose here, obfuscating whether or not he is literally a Nazi or not, and then simultaneously, when receiving some pushback, turning around and going, well, I'm just saying he could have picked better clips. I'm fully aware that you and others say that he does this, but I just haven't heard it myself, to be honest. We're currently watching a video where he openly admits in the beginning of this video why he has to mask his true opinions, right? And the reason why he has to do that is because, by and large, there are still a lot of people, even racist people, who look to someone who is a self-avowed neo-Nazi and go, yuck, that's bad. Okay? There are also plenty of people who think socialism is bad. Some people who are delusional enough to assume that even socialists are almost as bad as Nazis, if not worse than Nazis in some instances, right? Like there are a lot of dumb people out there, but by and large, most people, dumb, racist, smart, not racist, it doesn't matter. They're all anti-Nazi. Okay? It exists outside of the confines of permissible bigotry. Someone can have opinions that are damn near identical to Nick Fuentes, but the moment that they find out that someone is branded as a neo-Nazi, they go, ew, gross, not for me. Because Nazism is like the maximalist position of reactionary politics. In any case, he is not a fan of any non-white group, despite the fact that he himself is a Mexican and he goes back and forth on his Mexican background. But the thing is, he also, unlike the rest of the Republican Party, he is both anti-Israel and also anti-Semitic. That, I would say, is the biggest difference between Nick Fuentes and the average right-winger. The Surfs actually put a pretty decent compilation here together. Ben Shapiro host Matt Walsh, who spreads the exact same kind of sexism and racism as Nick Fuentes. They're both homophobic and support U.S. imperialism abroad. It's white supremacy, but the only difference is Matt doesn't also attack Israel. The only difference between Matt Walsh and Nick Fuentes is that Matt Walsh does not attack Israel because Matt Walsh works under Ben Shapiro. And it's also the same exact reason why Ben Shapiro hired Candace Owens, for example, when Candace Owens was saying a bunch of anti-Semitic shit, but she was pro-Israel at the time. When Candace Owens started saying anti-Semitic shit and was anti-Israel, then Ben Shapiro fired Candace Owens.
Nearly every single thing he accuses Fuentes of being misogynistic and violent towards women, racist towards black and indigenous people, praising white supremacy, are things that his own host, like Matt Walsh, has said many times before.
All of the cases that I mentioned, they're all immoral, bad, gross, harmful. But they're not all. Some of them were, not all of them. And until we acknowledge that there are other ways to have immoral sexual relations with a person, until we reclaim sexual morality and sexual boundaries, we will be stuck trying to condemn all bad sex on the grounds of consent. Fact number one.
For the record, this is also part of the reason why a lot of these people don't see Nick Fuentes as that big of a threat. If you're a fan of Matt Walsh, unless you are super pro-Israel and you are singularly invested in Israel, why the f would you hate Nick Fuentes? You love Nick Fuentes. There are so many normie right-wingers who love Matt Walsh, right? And they, of course, naturally also gravitate towards Nick Fuentes as well. If anything, on the normie right spectrum, the reason why they don't really f Nick Fuentes is because he's too extremely online. But of course, on the extremely online side of the normies who don't really dig deep into politics, they love Nick Fuentes because he's extremely online. So for the average Republican normie who is a voter who doesn't spend a whole deal of time online, they don't really know too much about Nick Fuentes, but if they encounter some of his clips, they're probably going to like him. They're going to be like, yeah, this guy is actually somewhat charismatic. He's saying the same exact things that I've, seen from the likes of Matt Walsh and many others, or Fox News, whether it be the great replacement theories or whether it be the fact that, liberal moral degeneracy is ruining Western civilization. These sorts of ideas are pretty close to what Nick Fuentes is advocating for. The only difference is he ties it back to Jews, right? The international Jewry, the organized Jewry, as he calls it, is the reason for why this kind of like liberalism and wokeness has run amok in America and is ruining America. The average right-winger, on the other hand, doesn't say that it's actually the Jews, or at least doesn't publicly say that they believe it's the Jews. They'll just say it's the liberals, it's the globalists, it's the international consortium of elites, liberal elites, bicoastal liberal elites that have ruined your life. And the Democratic Party is representative of these values and these people, right? That's the difference. So if you are already predisposed to believe this kind of thing, then you're just, Nick Fuentes just takes it one marginal step in the direction of anti-Semitic conspiracy theories.
It's not a new phenomenon. Fact number two, in fact, it's a phenomenon that was more common earlier in history, and for, the first 6,000 to 10,000 years of human existence, it was a normal thing. Fact three, girls between the ages of 17.
I hear people I trust like you saying this about him, but I haven't really heard any examples of him saying it himself. I'm fully aware that you and others say that he does this, but I haven't heard it myself, to be honest. Those could have been takes as bad jokes, I feel. It's not that compelling. What? Are you talking about Nick Fuentes? He is I don't know. Yes, Operation Reinhardt. What? I feel like, I can't tell if this is like a genuine, this is surprising. I don't know. Like, you've been around since 2022, and this is a person who's getting duped, I think. The entire point is this video literally is supposed to teach you how those clips can trick you. I don't know how you went from administrative colonialism versus settler colonialism, and you have an understanding of like compradors and collaborations and things of that nature, to Operation Reinhardt doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, look, chatter, the Nazis were pretty fucking meticulous about their record taking, okay? If you are a cynic about the metric ton of death and destruction, the systematized version of violence that happened during the Holocaust, I don't know what to tell you, but it is a pretty well established atrocity, and it's a little shocking to me that you would go from understanding the differences between administrative colonialism and settler colonialism to, I don't know, maybe they didn't actually kill that many people. Okay.
Now you have in the universities, in the media, in Hollywood, in finance, in government, and some people say, well, they're not all Jewish. It's like, okay, well, it's half, or 2/3, or 3/4. And what's the other quarter? What's the other third? What's the other half? It's not Catholics. It's not hardcore God-believing Christians. It's all kinds of other atheists, nihilists, postmodernists, whatever you want to call it. And so I don't want to say, hey, let's all attack one group, but there's a big problem when the leadership isn't Christian. We have big problems as a society when the people aren't Christian. What happens when the king and queen aren't Christian? What happens when the aristocracy isn't Christian? What happens when the cities and the business owners aren't Christian? Well, take a look around you. It's exactly what we have now. And so many of the problems that we can point to, which are blamed on various things, ideology, government, on other groups or populations, can be attributable to the loss of faith and the loss of any kind of adherence to an objective morality.
Elon Musk cooked us so hard. It's crazy how hard Elon Musk cooked us. Surely there's more context. I mean, the difference, however, is that those are American Jews, just like American Christians, people coming from, different parts of the world that have become American in the process over generations of living here. They are not a monolithic, organized unit. Okay? That's it. That's the difference. There is no organized Jewry. The closest expression to an organized Jewry would be Zionism. And even then, obviously, Zionism is falling apart in terms of its propaganda for American Jews, especially with the next generation of young American Jews. That's precisely the reason why ADL spent most of its time coming after people like myself and not Nick Fuentes in the aftermath of October 7, because ADL knows that Nick Fuentes is probably not going to, brain poison young American Jews into an anti-Zionist position, right? Because they will know instantly that he is a neo-Nazi. So they spent every waking moment trying to say that I also am, just like Nick Fuentes, a anti-Semite. Not realizing that actually undermines the argument of anti-Semitism when you're going after someone who has spent a good deal of time combating anti-Semitism. All right, let's continue.
And so, that's a long way of saying I love okay,
I wonder what he means by that.
Both American parties' bases. While some voices on the left became vocal about the atrocities being committed by Israel, Nick realized that no one on the right was doing the same. There was a gap in the market. It was the perfect opportunity for Nick. And now he didn't even have to hide his anti-Semitic views anymore. With many American and Israeli leaders, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu himself, constantly conflating Zionism with Judaism, Nick could openly spout Jewish conspiracy theories while being viewed as the one right-winger who actually spoke out against the genocide in Gaza. And this is the Nick Fuentes strategy. He finds the unpopular policies of the Republican Party, pinpoints those weak points, and then capitalizes on being the first and the loudest to disagree while offering—
Look, this is why I'm saying it. Look. One, responding, this is not worth your time. And two, you need to pay attention to folks that are critical to you. When people provide criticism or reflect on it, I can't provide exact examples, but there are times when you get criticism specifically around issues important to black folks and other minorities. There have been instances of constructive and valid criticism around those issues, and I've actually taken the time to approach it in a way where I internalize the criticism. You probably haven't seen it, and you're probably operating either off of one, old information, or two, instances where people still continue farming it. And that's my problem. And you, once again, are doing the same thing. You are doing the same thing that the other chatter was doing, which is gumming up the works consistently with vague generalizations. Like if your argument devolves into, for example, if your argument devolves into like, oh, you said black people with stank on it, right? About the Sudan issue when someone was basically using the genocide conducted by the RSF in Sudan as a counter to stop me from talking about, black voters in the New York mayoral race, telling a chatter that they're not actually going to universally vote for Eric Adams just because he's black. I addressed it. When you speak of some minorities' issues, you are sometimes really dismissive. Yes, I'm really dismissive of derailers in general. But at the end of the day, you have to understand, if that's, for example, what you're talking about right now, I've already taken the criticism. I've already said I've already said my apologies. And if you're still hammering that point, at this point, I don't think you're interested in having a productive conversation. Do you see my problem? Like, this is impossible. This is an impossible conundrum. Okay. And it also makes it very difficult to parse through who is a railer and who is actually offering constructive criticism. This is the issue. Okay. I'll shoot to point it out next time and we see if you take it seriously. Dude, do you not realize that this is a problem here? Like, you've been in this community for a long enough time and you literally have this attitude, this incredibly cynical attitude. I will never be able to convince you. Okay? I will never be able to convince you. I don't know why you just don't go and get this information elsewhere then. Like, I just don't get it. I don't understand it. Do you see what I mean? This is impossible. Every stream it turns into a struggle session over and over again. I watch it because you're still a good source of news and we live in a white patriarchal world, so everything we get is through that lens. Okay, good. All right, I'm going to do my very best to move on from this now. You guys have to understand, you're anonymous, okay? To me, you are anonymous. I know some of the backgrounds of some of the people that are consistently speaking in the chat, but I don't know how much of my background you're familiar with. I don't know how much of my commentary you're familiar with. I can only set expectations off of what you have revealed about yourself, whether that be your username or how many months you've been a subscriber. And I'm trying to do my very best. And if you are this adversarial in this very moment on issues that I've also, spoken about, then it's impossible. It's impossible for me to read your mind. It's impossible for me to know what your background is. It's impossible for me to understand where you're coming from. Because while it might seem like I'm speaking to you directly, and in this instance I am, in your living room, I'm speaking to tens of thousands of people, right? That's it. You have to remember that there is a significant chunk that is missing from this interpersonal communication that we have. Anyway, the irony, of course, is that what I was talking about here is that Nick Fuentes doesn't have to deal with this shit. Okay? He doesn't. He just simply does not have to deal with any of this stuff from his own audience. And ultimately, he doesn't have to deal with the endless amounts of people that take advantage of this back and forth dynamic that exists in this community, in this chat, to cut endless amounts of content off of it. Hasan is both simultaneously captive to his audience, but he's also incredibly mean to his audience. Hasan is bad. Hasan is rich, but also a socialist. That doesn't make any sense. He's a hypocrite. He's a grifter over and over and over again from a lot of people who are liberals themselves, even. And have apolitical audiences, and that's precisely the reason why he gets to basically operate in the sidelines and build his audience and build his community, and continue clip farming in whichever way he wants to direct it. When you look at the clips that are of me on the internet, it's more often than not clips with a negative framing. Clips with a negative framing, clips out of context, and clips with a negative framing that people with a genuine opportunity or a genuine interest in like undermining whatever the saying or smearing me have been pumping all over the internet, whether it be Reddit, whether it be Twitter, and certainly even on TikTok. With Nick, it's the exact opposite. His own clip army is constantly cutting things, oftentimes also out of context, in an effort to present him as like some progressive champion, even if they're reaching out to, even if they're actively trying to, reach out to an audience of more progressive-minded people, liberal people. Your haters have more videos on you than Nick Fuentes. That's the problem. Exactly. And my haters are, some of my haters literally say I'm a bigger issue for American politics than Nick Fuentes. I'm a bigger danger than Nick Fuentes. And these people run around and claim that they're liberal. So if you are a liberal, if you're a liberal and you watch these people who are self-described liberals say this kind of shit, and then it's paired up with like somewhat positively framed Nick Fuentes clips that you see on your TikTok, you end up leaning in that direction. And slowly but surely, you develop an affinity towards Nick Fuentes. And then, slowly but surely, you start agreeing with some of the other things that he's saying. This is just how it goes.
Bring an America First solution in its place. His solution isn't Republican or Democrat or Libertarian. It's America First. He's even said this himself.
That's why I started my show, which was called America First, which was this nationalistic show as opposed to libertarian or conservative.
And this strategy has gone far beyond Israel and has worked wonders for Nick and the Groypers as a whole.
RPG sent $20. Hey Nick, just wanted to thank you for your impassioned and unapologetic defense of La La Land. I got called gay for giving it a 10 out of 10, so it was a major relief to be vindicated by the leader of the white race. Favorite song/scene?
I don't know we want to go that far, but it is objectively one of the greatest movies of all time.
So far in this video, I've been talking a lot about Nick. But what about the Groypers themselves? What are their views? Do they blindly follow everything that Nick says, or is there some resistance there? If I was going to infiltrate this community and attempt to make woke left-wing content that was appealing to them, I would need to understand how the Groypers interact with Nick. What does that relationship look like? And to do that, I would need to hop into some of the spaces where Groypers are found. While Nick might be mostly discovered through short-form videos on the woke mainstream apps like Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, all of Nick's videos and live streams originate on the free speech haven website known as Rumble. Think of Rumble as sort of a YouTube, but all of the content is for conservatives. So I want to spend the next few minutes going through one of Nick's long-form videos and try to get a better sense of how he navigates complex topics. I've only really known Nick through short-form videos and Twitter, so maybe there might be some nuance that I'm missing. But before watching, I decided to recruit someone from the radical left to help me break down this video and dive a bit deeper into the Fuentes psyche. Some of you may already know him, but if not, let me introduce you to Eric Hovigam.
Low-lying grass, rolling hills. Oh, Israeli missile launcher. We gotta be over here in Israel. What? Why is there an Israeli missile launcher in the middle of Azerbaijan? Between 2016 and 2020, Israel supplied Azerbaijan with nearly 70% of its weapons arsenal.
On his YouTube channel, Eric has broken down topics ranging from Zoran Mamdani's campaign, to Israel's influence over the United States, and to secretly spreading Armenian propaganda on Hasan Piker's live stream. Well, Eric, thanks for coming on. I know I kind of gave you a little bit of background on what we're going to be doing today, but yeah, would love to hear your initial thoughts before watching this, like if there's anything you're hoping to get out of it, if there's any expectations you might have.
I'm just excited to become a Groyper. I don't know. I mean, I know they're revered in society. They're really up and coming, and really, I'm just excited to hopefully be a bigger part of their community.
Yeah, I totally agree. It seems very inclusive so far. So I'm looking forward to diving in.
I want to talk about the ICE deportations, the DHS deployments. And I have a little bit of a hot take on this one, okay? I'm sure you've seen the news. And I talked about this a little bit a couple of weeks ago. I like it. I'm out here in Chicago in the streets.
I like it.
And every day we're seeing footage of Border Patrol and ICE agents marching through downtown Chicago. It's awesome. I love it. Our country is being held hostage by a metric ton of the lowest common denominator of people that really belong in prison.
If his whole thing is like, these people are inferior, whether it's by race or by belief system, yet they are holding you hostage, Is that not just the ultimate skill issue? Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, also, what's the hostage part? You can literally do whatever you want right now, Nick. You can say whatever you want. You can go wherever you want. You can do whatever you want.
What's his thing? What's his, like, your body, my choice?
Your body, my choice.
There's no consequences for this guy.
No consequences, but oh my God, they've got me. We can't do anything now.
That hide their faces and use violence and intimidation and terror tactics to prevent law enforcement from doing its job. Like, we need to get in, really crack down on this stuff so that we can live in our cities. We need to take back control of the cities.
Like, what does that even mean? You know? Like, how, what is that? Are you saying that you want to control the cities in like a white supremacist direction? Like, what does that even mean? Like, this dude lives in Chicago and he's excited at the prospect of the Department of Homeland Security deployments happening, ICE deployments happening in the city of Chicago, which is incredibly chaotic. Damn, this dude is old as. I've been watching your ass longer than The Simpsons. 55 months. Hell yeah. You're trending on Twitter X if you're wondering where the weird comments are lately coming from. I mean, there's never a moment where I'm not trending on Twitter and X chatter. That's just like, I'm always trending on Twitter and X. That's why there's a sea of weird comments all the time.
You live in Chicago and you've never moved. So, like, if you don't like it, then just move somewhere else.
Go back to where you came from.
Get the hell out of here.
Very interesting because he's talked extensively about how he doesn't like the Democrats, but he also doesn't like the Republicans. And it seems like he is not ideologically consistent. Nothing he says fits within one firm moral framework. And I think that's part of his appeal. I don't think it's like an intentional thing by him, but I think it's a big reason why so many young folks like him, because you never know what you're going to get next. In many ways, it's like gambling.
Yeah. In a way, he just seems like he's the perfect content machine. He's like Mr. Beast. He knows how to get views. That's all that it is.
And
he doesn't actually believe
He has similar
anything.
opinions on race as Mr. Beast does.
They kind of look alike, too, now that I think about it.
Oh my God, wait. Low-key, you're kind of right. Do you think Nick Beast, do you think Nick Fuentes and Mr. Beast are actually related?
Wait, your name is actually Nick Beast? What do you think the J stands for? Do you think it stands for Jimmy? Jimmy Beast?
Nick Jimmy Beast.
They're just content farmers.
Two equally evil content farmers.
Watch him start like a philanthropist Rumble channel next. Or I can see him doing it, like taking away 5,000 wells from Africa.
Last African civilian to leave the red circle loses their well. Or they get the well. If they're the last one in the red circle, they get new wells.
And I seriously doubt that Trump is going to be the guy that finishes the job. I think he's too old, too tired. He just doesn't have the imagination. He is not an operator on the level of a Vladimir Putin, of a Xi Jinping, of a Franklin Roosevelt, of an Abraham Lincoln.
Is it lived up? FDR lover? What?
Blue no matter who. Blue no matter who. That's insane.
Dude, he must be a fan of the New Deal.
New Deal Nick, that's what they call him.
That's what a weird lineup. We have Putin, Xi Jinping, FDR, and who was the last one?
Abe Lincoln. A weird blunt rotation, if I'm being honest, but would be interesting. There would definitely be some stories shared. That's for sure.
It wouldn't be nightmare rotation. It would be
no,
but it would be stressful.
The vibes would be off, I think. I don't know if I would like the vibes, but I would like to be there. I think I'd like to be sober, though.
Yeah, the way that Trump is going about this, you're like daring the Democrats to destroy us before we can destroy them. I don't like that.
Man, a lot to take away.
So much.
And kind of not that much at the same time.
Yeah.
If you want to check out our full hour-and-a-half long reaction to this Rumble video, you can find that on my Patreon. It turned out to be a very entertaining time, so if you want to go watch it, you can go to my Patreon link down below to become a member. As always, I appreciate the support. So Eric, I think we kind of know enough about Nick and the Groyper community. I think I get it. I think I understand Nick, but there's still something that I actually have to do. And Eric, I have a really big ask of you.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Will you become Nick Fuentes with me?
I thought you would never ask. Let's Groyp this thing.
Let's Groyp it up.
That was just that part was just like unfiltered reaction to a Nick Fuentes Rumble VOD, specifically so that he could promote the full reaction that he did with Eric on his Patreon. But the video is more structured than that, right? And they're back into it now. This is the thing that Benaminute does, where he will like. Yeah, take those Zoran posters off, Eric.
Unfortunately, I don't have any like incels to put on the wall, but I do have this printout of Joseph Stalin, and I figured that if the Groypers just Google Joseph Stalin and go to one of their weird right-wing outlets and see that he killed like, 10 trillion people or whatever it'll say, they might be like, wow, he was super Giga Chad and based. So who knows, maybe that's like step one to radicalizing them. All right, I'm happy with the set, but now I have to get into costume. So I'll do a really cool transition in 3, 2, 1. Huh? Pretty. I got a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Need a tie. Also,
all right,
no
now
women.
I need some kind of profile picture.
Okay, first things first, we need to set up some profiles.
So we're gonna make a YouTube, an Instagram, a TikTok, and a Twitter, and maybe some Rumbles.
Rick.Patriot. But I want to make it Mexican. So, Patriota.
Sign up. We're going to do Cooper Liberto. All right, here we are. r/Nick Fuentes. Uh-oh. A Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson interview is coming soon? Per Alex Jones. This feels like a Marvel crossover movie.
Whites, blacks, against the Jews.
What?
Is Nick glazing on the Catholic Church a bit too sus? He's a Novus Ordo. He is Novus Ordo. I'm pretty sure this is the same company that makes Ozempic. Okay, so we took 10 viral clips of Nick's from Instagram. We transcribed them and then replaced the racist, sexist, right-wing words and phrases with woke, left-leaning ones, thus taking the Groyper rhetoric and vibe and rebranding it to be, well, the opposite of the original Fuentes message. In doing this, we were hoping that the algorithms would get confused by our content and still push it to the Groyper community. We'd be feeding the Groypers left-wing content and they wouldn't even know it. That is, if we were able to pull off the Fuentes disguise. If we looked like Nick Fuentes, and if we talked like Nick Fuentes, could we trick the Groypers into listening to what we had to say? Well, you tell me.
RPG sent $20. Hey Coop, just wanted to thank you for your impassioned and unapologetic defense of La La Land. I got called gay for giving it a 10 out of 10, so it was a major relief to be vindicated by the leader of straight white men. Favorite song/scene?
Favorite song/scene? I don't know. I don't want to go that far, but it is objectively one of the greatest movies of all time.
The job market is cooked. It's cooked because of H-1B visas. It's cooked because of high-skilled and low-skilled immigration. Has the GOP done anything about that? Absolutely not.
The job market is cooked. It's cooked because of the billionaires. It's cooked because the 10 richest men in America own more than the bottom 150 million combined. Has the GOP done anything about that? Absolutely not.
Why do you have this job? You don't know anything. You're an idiot. You're like, you can't tell me anything I don't know. As a matter of fact, you couldn't name 5 countries. You couldn't tell me what continent China's in. How do you have a job? How are you getting paid?
Like, these are secondary memes. You know what I mean? Like, they're taking Nick Fuentes rants that are anti-immigrant and then turning it into a secondary meme of like, haha, like this, to say like, haha, like I'm not racist, but sometimes I have racist opinions when the immigrant DoorDasher forgets to give me a straw for my drink. This right here on the left is it's taking a white supremacist neo-Nazis commentary against immigrants, explaining the joke. Dude, I'm explaining to you why this kind of stuff is relevant and also works on liberals, that like apolitical people. Do you not get it? I'm explaining to you how propaganda works. I'm explaining to you how this also normalizes dude is racist and you promoting him. Let's continue.
Aid.
Why do you have a job? You don't know anything. You're an idiot. You're like, you can't tell me anything I don't know. As a matter of fact, you couldn't name 5 countries. You couldn't tell me what continent China is in. How do you call this your job? How do you get to make a living just because you bought an apartment for $20 back in 1986? How is that your job?
I want this guy, and I wish Hitler would kill him. I wish Hitler would have killed him. If I was in a room with Hitler and that guy, me and Hitler would team up and that guy up. We would kill that guy.
I want this guy. I wish John Brown would kill him. I wish John Brown would have killed him. If I was in the room with John Brown and that guy, me and John Brown would team up and out of that guy. We would kill that guy. John Brown would hold him down and I would beat him to, and we'd high five at the end.
You know what my favorite words are when a woman talks?
I made cookies.
You know what my favorite words are when a woman talks?
Let's make cookies together.
I love you. I love you. I love you.
Get over here.
I love you. I love you. I love you.
Get over here.
I made dinner. I made cookies. I made you a sandwich.
It's like, wow.
You're awesome.
Oh, let's make dinner together. Let's make cookies. Let's make sandwiches for each other.
It's like, wow.
You're awesome.
But when women come at me and they're like, you need to do this, you need to do that.
I'm just like, shut up!
But when a woman comes at me and they're like, I made you a sandwich, I made you cookies, I'm just like,
Just shut up.
So that's just a little advice, a little helpful advice for all the women out there trying to secure an awesome guy like me, trying to secure a great husband like me.
No women are coming at him. I know. He's talking about his mommy, I think.
So that's just a little advice. A little helpful advice for all the women out there trying to secure an awesome guy like me, trying to secure a great husband like me.
So we posted the clips to our respective Groyper accounts, Rick Patriota and Cooper Liberto, and then waited to see how they did. While those clips are marinating in the algorithms and we're waiting for those results, I want to talk about some realizations that started to hit me while I was...
The last woman that went after Nick maced him at his doorstep? True. And it was an old lady.
Becoming Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes represents a new kind of right-wing figure, obsessed with vice signaling, a race to the bottom to see who can say the most offensive thing.
Women actually do come at Nick because they're insane and forget he's gay and he hates them. No, I think that's his gay energy is probably part of the reason why. Women love a messy gay. They do. And Nick Fuentes provides that.
And his followers are mostly young men who are just angry at the world, who are mistaking shock value for conviction. But when you pair that energy with calls for law and order, or support for arresting people who criticize Trump or ICE, it all starts to feel contradictory. And honestly, f***ing lame. It's kind of hard to sell yourself as a rebellious truth teller when your version of rebellion is demanding obedience to authority. What's most telling is how unstable his ideology is. Nick's talking points shift constantly, and it's only a matter of time before they start looking as cringy and outdated as Ben Shapiro's are now.
Oh, he's so hilarious. Oh, he's so charming. Oh,
See you on December 12th,
there was more of Andrew
big
Schultz
bro?
saying,
What
really
does that
massaging
mean?
Mamdani.
That's why this intellectual fascism he tries to push never really fully works. Nick, you're gonna hate to hear this, but JD Vance has the same problem you do. You can't nerd your way into making authoritarianism sound smart and cool.
If you look at the legislative text that they gave us, they tried to turn on two separate provisions that would give healthcare benefits to illegal aliens.
The moment you try to justify it with reason or theory, it collapses.
Because these protesters are out of control. They're emboldened. Trump won the election. We have federal law enforcement. They're enforcing the damn laws. They're taking people that have no legal standing and they're removing them from the country. That's the law.
But that doesn't mean we should just ignore it. Just because he sounds ridiculous most of the time doesn't mean we should just let Nick Fuentes run his course. Because we are at a crossroads. We are at a point of immense failure of liberal democracy. We are at the point of the majority of neither party fighting for anyone but billionaires and mega corporations. And we are at the point where something new must be offered to all Americans, to everyone. And like Nick, I want to play the long game here. I want to imagine what can come next after Trump. Because whether you like it or not, there is no normal to go back to after this. The neoliberal policies that have shaped the Western world over the past 50 years.
What's the best way to de-radicalize someone from leaning towards Fuentes' perspectives? Explain to them that it's not actually organized Jewry that is responsible for all of the pain and destruction that they feel in their lives, or the lack of hope that they experience, that their landlord is not Jewish. Well, it could be, but in general, it's not because of organized Jewry that is the reason as to why they're feeling this kind of stuff. It's capitalism. You know, there are capitalist Jews as there are capitalist WASPs. Ultimately, they align on their class position, not on any other ethnic or national boundaries. They operate on the boundaries of profit and expanding profit. Are capitalist WASPs? Yes.
Or on their way out. This is the critical point of change. I guarantee you that the first candidate and party that can champion an economic populist message will come out on top, whether they're a Republican, Democrat, or some new party. Okay, so how did our Groyper videos perform? Let's start with Rick Patriotis. First of all, Eric's TikTok account got completely banned just a couple of days after starting it, and they provided no
woke. The wokes got him.
Reason as to why. He appealed it and was not able to get it back. Was it because Larry Ellison thought he was being too woke about Israel? Maybe. So no views for Rick on TikTok. However, Instagram was a different story. In total, all 4 videos received 1,839 views, with the video about being a Republican shill outperforming the others by a ton.
This was the video that did well across all platforms.
Now, YouTube was kind of a weird one for Mr. Patriota.
So, 2 of the videos that I uploaded to YouTube got some form of blacklisting. The video in which I said,
John Brown would hold him down and I would beat.
That got actually age restricted. And then, crazily enough, the one where I'm on Israel.
We need to confront Israel like we confront Putin. Like we confronted apartheid South Africa.
That got fewer views. That got 2 views. As I uploaded that immediately got buried in the algorithm as
My only criticism of this style for Benaminute is that I think he does a great job with these videos, but he needs to let it cook more, because I don't think, as a content creator, I will say this hasn't cooked enough for them to basically figure out what is getting boosted and what's not getting boosted. I feel like you need at least more time. I know it's like virtually impossible to churn out content at a rapid clip to produce a valid argument and also simultaneously put enough effort onto the testing side, like the A/B testing side. But the reality of the matter is, like, you need to keep pumping this shit for like at least 2 to 4 months. I know it's not possible to do, because you can't do both at the same time. Like, you can't just basically make videos. If your primary focus is like making videos, it's going to be impossible for you to make these sorts of videos and also do this with regular frequency. But you need far more volume to be able to understand the analytics
as well.
But in total, he received 3,046 views from YouTube.
I guess the only way to do that would be to stagger projects to make sure that you have, maybe a different form of content in between. And then have these like longer projects that you work on to put out there once every like 5 months or 6 months,
And the comments were very interesting.
He's 28, I'm 46, and this holds true. Reagan, both Bushes, and Trump. Each and every one of them dumber than the previous one. And each and every one of them actively made life in America harder for everyone who isn't a multimillionaire.
Hell yeah.
There's something there.
That's what we're looking for.
That is what we're looking for.
That's the best comment that I think we could have gotten on one of these videos.
Is this the liberal Nick Fuentes? Laughing, crying emoji.
Okay, so what about Cooper Liberto? How did he do? Well, first of all, Cooper was able to evade TikTok's grasp and was not banned for posting his content. He received 1,084 views in total, with the majority of them going to the pumpkin grabbing video. And this one really performed well, with a ton of engagement and comments.
And of course, you have a guy saying, Nick, is that you? Nicky always grabbing his pumpkin. Oh my God.
Now, Instagram was Cooper's worst performing app. None of the videos really took off. They all got around like 100 views. But he did get some pretty important Instagram followers. The political trad Cath. This is my first follower. He seems to be a Groyper. And then lastly, on YouTube, he totaled 1,780 views, with most of them going to the La La Land one, funnily enough, and the motivational video. You have one life. It's not very long. It's not as long as you think. He received 5 new subscribers, and here's what some of the comments look like. Nick, WTF is this? This is Nick Fuentes without Nick Fuentes. Keep it up, though.
Your first video on the platform for TikTok always gets an extra boost because they want to embolden people to post more if it's a decent video and goes viral. This is a presumption, but it's pretty well known at this point. Yeah, that makes sense. First hit is free. The hit being virality.
I love that.
Bro, speaking facts. In terms of trying to get leftist woke talking points over to the Groyper audience, would you call this a success?
I think overwhelmingly, this was a success. And I think it's demonstrated by the fact that people are indeed commenting, is this the liberal Nick Fuentes, on both of our videos. People are actively seeing, like, there is, you can call it a Nick Fuentes, but there's this idea that stuff is really broken right now, and that the two-party system, or the two parties that we currently have, are garbage. They're not serving our material interests. They're not serving the people. They're captured by Israel. They're captured by corporate political action committees. They are demonstrably failures at improving our lives. And people see that, and they're upset about it. This shows how big of a failure the left currently is in the United States as a consequence of neoliberal Democrats pulling away, ratcheting further and further to the right. Because clearly, there's an appetite for the opposite. There's an appetite for material action to be taken to improve people's lives. And folks on the left just aren't doing it. And that, of course, gives the leeway for bad faith actors on the right to jump in and capture this audience that should not be captured by folks like Nick Fuentes. So yeah, I think it was pretty successful overall. I think it was a success to some extent at the very least. What would you say?
I think the fact that all 3 apps saw us as somebody who should be shown to more Groypers and be pushed out throughout the community. And I think in terms of infiltrating the Groyper community, we did that. That was a success. In terms of getting our points across as leftists, as woke propagandists online, I don't know. That's a little more like nuanced thing to measure. I don't really think we can tell from just the comments that we were reading. But I do like to think that at least one person, one Groyper, saw one of those videos and said, yeah, I like this guy. I hope he becomes the next Nick Fuentes one day.
If you really want to, like, change people's opinions, the real way you do that, of course, it starts with the media, but it can't be overstated how much of it has to come from the politicians who enact policies to change like the literal way I live, to change my bank balance, to change the food that I put on the table, to change the roof over my head, if they are not able to do that, none of my opinions will change beyond what the media will tell me. And I think that is, it's impossible to have a very satisfying conclusion from this when, we're just a couple of...
Not to sound like a nerd. Hot take, but I don't think you can save Groypers. If you have no empathy as someone over 21, you're fucked. Yeah, but there are a lot of people who are under the age of 21. And no, you can absolutely change everyone's minds. That's just... Because the one thing that people can't overcome, like propagandists can't overcome, is real existing material harm. That is precisely the reason why you have so many people who experience buyer's remorse after they vote for Donald Trump, right? If that was the case, if people had no capacity to change, especially after experiencing certain forms of harm that they don't like, experiencing certain forms of harm that they directly tie back to this administration's lack of interest in solving any of those problems, there would be no change in people's attitudes. But it's very clear that people who voted for Donald Trump even recognize at this stage that Donald Trump was not great, right? For a million different reasons. The goal for people like ourselves should be to redirect them into a more productive way of thinking rather than just like casting them aside or assuming that there is no way that we can actually change their perspective. It obviously gets more difficult when you think about, older people, for example. Like older people are obviously a lot harder to change the minds of. When this whole appeal comes from being an outcast who could say taboo things, this means all Republican establishment attempts to create a diet Groyper will fall flat. What's even the point if it's not edgy? But it's also a problem for Fuentes himself trying to build power. Sure. Nick Fuentes says he's not against grooming, that he's been on a crusade against the age of consent.
And sexual propaganda and grooming. You know what? I'm going to say something controversial. I'm not against adolescent puberty. The right is in a perverse way adopting the left's paradigm on sexuality, where they're saying, don't sexualize our kids. They got to be 18. And I've been on this crusade about age of consent unintentionally over the last couple weeks. They get out of college when they're 22, 23. Then they think about marriage. Sorry, no.
Once again, there is very little daylight between that perspective and what Matt Walsh has said time and time again. And that is a part of the reason why he is able to infiltrate these spaces. This is why I say there are far more hurdles for those on the left if you are anti-capitalist in terms of penetrating collective consciousness, in terms of penetrating like the ranks of the Democratic Party or like liberal avenues, liberal spaces in general, because liberals are also pro-capitalist. Right-wingers are all across the board pro-capitalist. So if you're anti-capitalist in any way, more people are just simply going to be antagonistic to you across the board. That's why it's a much more difficult endeavor. The pendulum will need to swing back. We're not there yet. I mean, it's just that while the pendulum is swinging in some direction against liberalism, the problem is these other versions, like a more like fascist or a left populist, fake left populist position, like the one that Tucker Carlson leans into, especially because they have more institutional legitimacy and also far less enemies than someone who is an anti-capitalist. Those guys will take advantage of the void in the media. They will take advantage of the void in the discourse. They will fill this market demand. It's not a direct pendulum swing. And it also doesn't happen without people leaning into certain directions. There is just no automatic snapback to woke. People have to say enough is enough. Like, we got to get more woke right now. And only after a while, only after people have been burned too much by the anti-woke initiatives, do they turn around and actually find themselves convinced that maybe this anti-woke stuff was bullshit. My dad's fiance told me the other Thanksgiving that she's over Trump and is totally in the Marjorie Taylor Greene, Nick Fuentes sphere now. It's not just men, it's middle-aged women. She told me Trump isn't America first enough for her anymore. Yeah, see, that's a perfect example because Trump isn't America first, right? Because he's a capitalist. He cares about the international, he cares about the super duper wealthy far more than he cares about the average Americans. But the problem is they're going from Trump to a different version of Donald Trump or a different version of like fake populism when they move on from Trump to someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene. The reality of the matter is Marjorie Taylor Greene isn't like pro-America either. She's anti-Israel, sure, but she's basically like her anti-Israel position is being used as a mark or as a representation of how untarnished she truly is, if that makes sense. You know how people say do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life? I was just reflecting on my fantasies and never daydream about doing comedy in packed stadiums. My fantasies involve sitting around a campfire at Dave Chappelle's farm and making all the greats laugh. I want to be the funniest person to the funniest people. I thought I had no ego. What is happening? But it's just egotistical cope. Tucker's using language like material conditions and his anti-immigrant rhetoric. They're disguising their language. Yeah, there's a lot of people in the Groyper fan base that also aren't white. There are a lot of non-white Groypers out there. And it's the same reason as to why people actually want Ben Shapiro and his commentary to resemble masculinity, or Sneako's commentary to resemble masculinity, because Ben Shapiro and Sneako aren't aesthetically masculine people. They're far from it, right? But they represent a lot of insecure men who want to basically see themselves as masculine people without actually looking the part. So in that sense, it's actually very effective because the audience sees themselves in the people that they're watching, and they go, oh, as long as I say the right words, as long as I, abide by a right-wing worldview, then I am presenting myself as a masculine person on the internet. And I don't actually have to, hit the gym or do the work necessarily, or even look the part. My false understanding of masculinity can be fulfilled by simply being a right-wing guy. And the same goes for Nick Fuentes. Oh, I'm a traditional Catholic, a person in the margins who is a radical because I'm a person who is a radical who's speaking truth to power just because, I'm a dangerous radical in my political rhetoric because I'm channeling the exact same point of view that Nick Fuentes is channeling. And Nick Fuentes is Mexican, and maybe you're also Indian or Mexican or Latino or, some kind of non-white, but if he can do it, you can do it too. Like relatability, I think, is a big part of this. Relatability plays a major role in this. If people can see themselves if people who are watching can see themselves in the shoes of the commentator that they're watching, it makes it a lot easier to take on their message. Wash before B43R. Thank you for the 10 gifted subs. Yeah, that's part of the reason why I think you're seeing a lot of. That's why you're seeing a lot of the DEI initiatives in the white nationalist movement now. Anyway, I don't relate to you. Yeah, many people don't, and I think that plays a big role in why a lot of people develop resentment towards me as well. I understand. I remember you wouldn't touch this guy with a 10-foot pole to not give him relevance. You think you could have pushed back more and sounded the alarm bells when he was not as famous so that people like Brad didn't have him on the first time around he did? I did do that already. It didn't work. At this point, it's impossible, especially considering that he's getting highlighted by, the New York Times and stuff like that. It's just not happening. There's not really anything I can do. Yeah, at least in this comment section, people are all over Trump. What is this? Shit's getting so bad my conservative cousin turned liberal right at the Thanksgiving table. Yeah, I think this is going to happen more and more. But in this environment of instability, I worry that there will be people that try to move. There will be people that try to move the Trump supporters who are now experiencing buyer's remorse in more dangerous directions. You know what I mean? My conservative uncle who wore a Trump "Get Over It" shirt last Christmas said, "I hate the whole government now, Trump included. Found out that my granddad who voted for Trump and went to our local No Kings rally and spoke out against Trump on the news. Me at the table after my whole conservative family starts talking about how bad Trump is. Uncle apologized for voting for Trump and took full accountability. That's why I think this unique moment is where, you know, Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes will be even more dangerous because they are seen as like independent outsiders, truth tellers to different parts of the right-wing movement. And I think in that regard, when there's a lot of people who are looking for alternatives, they can provide a comfortable landing point for many of these guys, not realizing that the reason why you're experiencing this feeling, if you're a conservative who voted for Donald Trump, you're experiencing this anger and resentment because, you know, Donald Trump is first and foremost invested in defending capital, defending the interests of the super wealthy. And ironically enough, Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes will do the same exact thing. It's because ultimately they're on the same side. Maybe they're a little bit more extreme with their points of view on some of these issues, but like, I don't think a lot of people are experiencing buyer's remorse with Donald Trump because he's not, you know, deporting enough migrants. I think in many instances, people are experiencing buyer's remorse because they thought deporting migrants would actually lead to some kind of economic improvement in their lives, and it didn't happen. So it's really important to identify that, and it's really important to explain that to people when you see them experiencing this this lack of confidence, this lack of faith in the Trump movement, because your rent is still going up. And a lot of these other guys don't actually want to tackle the issue of rent. They're basically doing a more extreme argument of what Donald Trump was saying. Immigrants are the reasons why your rent is high, right? And if we deport enough immigrants, your rent will automatically go down. Okay, we're deporting a bunch of immigrants. Rent is still not going down. So it kind of feels like there's a different reason why rent is not going down, right? The low-hanging fruit to fix things is so obvious, and Trump gives money to Argentina. Yeah, I mean, there's also, there's the issue with healthcare. There's so many different economic issues. The problem is the Democrats, by and large, do not actually represent any of those issues, and certainly do not convincingly represent themselves as champions to tackle these issues. For some, because Trump is so bad in every aspect, for some it'll be because of the Epstein stuff, right? They'll say, what the I thought you were supposed to tackle the deep state, not reveal that you're firmly committed to defending the deep state, right? Like there will be people that hate him on the Epstein shit. There will be some who might even think, well, I thought you were supposed to not go to I thought you were supposed to not start wars, and now you're talking about starting a new war in Venezuela. There's going to be people like that too, right? But I think by and large, the biggest chunk of Trump voters that are experiencing discontent are experiencing it. They're experiencing this discontent because Trump said he was going to solve the affordability crisis and has done absolutely nothing to solve the affordability crisis. So if you channel that, and if you focus on that, I think you will absolutely see a lot more success, because Donald Trump personally went back on all of his promises, whether it be, ending the war that Israel was waging, the genocide in Gaza. He's trying to start another war with Venezuela now. And the mass deportations have been incredibly harmful, and it hasn't actually helped solve the affordability crisis at all. And it's, as a matter of fact, making things worse, whether it be the tariffs or whether it be the instability that he's causing in major cities, deporting these people that are actually productive laborers that play a very important role in our agricultural output. I don't think it's right to assume everyone on the right will be a demagogue grifter. You can get committed white nationalists who do want to improve conditions in the pursuit of their agenda. Yes. But ultimately the question still is this a problem, and will this fix the problem? Let's say the white nationalist gets his agenda across. Okay? Let's say the white nationalist gets their agenda across and they start purging the nation of like 60 million people. How is that going to work? You need an industrial scale ethnic cleansing operation. You need to literally change the economy in its entirety to focus in that direction, where all systems are single-handedly all of the manufacturing, all of the labor is single-handedly working across the board in advancing this deportation machine. It would destroy the American economy. It would destroy American way of existence. It would create an environment of complete fear. It would be a much worse version of the little tests that we're experiencing in places like Chicago and places like Los Angeles and North Carolina, and now they're moving in Louisiana as well. Okay? And even if that was successful, even if they were to successfully, create these concentration camps and put every single person that has a little bit of melanin in said concentration camps, right? And you were to do that without, having significant economic hardships, is your life ultimately better? Is that going to improve people's material conditions? No, of course not. So that's my argument at the end of the day, which is that not only is this like an incredibly violent endeavor, but this incredibly violent endeavor actually doesn't have a serious utopian vision at all. There is no positive outcome here.